There ain't enough room in this town for the both of us.
Welcome to Take Two Radio. We are pleased to bring you interviews with people in the entertainment and music industry, discussions and recaps of the 4 remaining daytime soaps. That's The Bold and the Beautiful, The Young and the Restless, General Hospital, and Days of Our Lives, as well as various other shows. For upcoming and previous shows, check take2radio.com. That's with the number 2. And you can find us on Blog Talk Radio, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and other streaming apps. Follow us on social media at Take2Radio, and thanks for listening.
Good evening, and welcome to a special edition of Take Two Radio. We are on our off Thursdays, but one of our favorite guests, who has been here multiple times, just released his funny, poignant, at times graphic, very, very honest memoir called Sub-Lebrity. I am, of course, talking about Leon Acord of Old Dogs and New Tricks. Faithful listeners out there will remember that he came a couple months ago and he was letting us know about getting together the funding for a final season. He's been on multiple times, and we love him. I, of course, am joined by David, who will be running the board and being our engineer this evening. Pam, Candice, and Carolyn graciously allowed me to have this special show with Leon because we love him and he loves us. So he should be here any moment.
Let me check and see if this is him. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Hello, it's Leon. How are you? Hi,
is it Leon?
Hey,
it's Leon.
Leon.
How are you guys?
We are doing
We're
well.
doing good.
It's me and David. David will be running the call-ins, et cetera, et cetera. He may pop in for a question or two later on.
Hey, David.
But it is basically you and me for this special edition of Take Two Radio.
Did I scare the ladies off?
No. We thought
This is an off week, so everybody had other prior commitments, and I said, the book is coming out. We really got to get this up there. And they said, we love Leon. Will you do the show by yourself? And I said, David,
bless
will
you guys.
help? And
yeah.
How
and so
nice.
here we are.
It's not just an off week; it's an off year so far, 2020.
Tell me about it.
So, bless you. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So fill us in. I saw as of sometime early this morning that you were number 7 or 8 on the Amazon charts.
Well, Amazon's, I think that was the queer new releases chart. Amazon has about 300 different charts, depending on the category: memoir, queer interest, LGBTQ, show business. We've been bouncing around because they update the charts. See, I didn't even know they did charts. My husband pointed this out like the day after it was published. And he's kind of like following it fanatically. Oh, we're number 8. Oh, no, we're number 23. Oh, no, we're 47. Oh, no, we're back up to number. So, yeah, it's we're all over the place on that chart. But it's been a great week. It's really been. It's just humbling and heartwarming and just all sorts of wonderful feedback. So I'm all kinds of happy.
I would imagine. I mean, I see a lot of responses on Facebook, and as you know, I read the book, and it's as I was saying, it's raw, it's honest, it's funny. At times it's self-deprecating, it's heartwarming.
Thank you, and thank you.
You're welcome. It's the total package, and,
cool.
And if anybody follows you on Facebook, the narrative, the voice of the book is exactly what you see. It's exactly what you've heard when he's been here talking to us before. It's
oh
Leon,
my gosh.
and
I may ask you to use that as a poll quote, because when I first started talking about writing a book, I had more than one person say, "Oh, well, I hope it sounds like you on Facebook." So I may use that. Thank you. I was hoping I wanted it to have kind of that tone, only with a little more depth, because there's really only so much you can do in one post. But yeah, I wanted to be first and foremost entertaining. So thank you for that.
You're absolutely welcome, and you'll get the recording of this in a day or two. Make a sound bite. You can use it wherever you want. I am saying it out live right now, so you have full permission.
I've already committed it to memory. Thank you.
Absolutely. So tell our listeners, because you know how much I love asking this question, tell our listeners the full and complete title of Sub-Lebrity.
It is Sub-Lebrity with an asterisk, and the asterisk leads to the subtitle, which is The Queer Life of a Show-Biz Footnote.
I have to disagree with that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I thoroughly disagree.
I have to disagree with that.
How do you mean?
No, I don't think of you as a footnote.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, nobody's really a footnote, and yet we all are. I mean, it's all perspective. It's I use that because there's a lot of footnotes in the book, and I also consider myself, in the grand scheme of things, you have the A list, you have the D list. I'm probably somewhere around K or M, but that's okay. One of the things I hope people take away from the book is that success is not necessarily defined by dollar signs, and if you follow your dreams, you can be happy without being on the cover of People.
Absolutely, and there are different kinds of success, and
exactly.
One of the things that I think about, when I think of success is, are you living the kind of life that when you look in the mirror, you can breathe with total satisfaction, you can breathe with total comfort, you can breathe, and listening. I of course. The listeners know that I'm blind. I lost my sight 4 years ago, so I listen to it using a screen reader. And listening to some of the chapters and some of the stories in the way you narrated them, I can imagine that at this point it was cathartic to put it all on paper, but I don't think at this point you're unashamed or you had much of hey, I don't know if I really want the world to see me this way. And it comes through in the book. You're very unashamed. You're very unapologetic about who you are. And that's pretty darn awesome.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that. I think when you write, one thing, it's a memoir, not an autobiography. So, I remembered what I could remember. Others, and I'm from a generation that did lots of things in the 80s that, our memories may not be as good as others. But you have to tell the truth, whether it's an autobiography or a memoir. And otherwise, why bother? And, a lot of things, there are things in the book that I haven't really talked about, even to my closest friends. But none of it is anything I'm ashamed of because, we are the total sum of our experiences. And, I just wonder if I took out any one of those, even the bad experiences of my life, would I have been an actor for 25 years? Would I have the strength to, produce an act in a web series? Would I have the nerve to publish this book? It's all character building, and it's true. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So, very little shame.
And I want to get back to the "what doesn't kill us" part, but yeah. I want you to tell our listeners, when is the physical release of the book, and why did we get the ebook now?
The paperback is scheduled for June 14th. Because I wanted it to come out in the summer, breezy summer beach read. Well, please stay off the beaches, at least until further notice. And And yeah, the ebook was going to come out at the same time, but after I'm in California, we've been locked down now for, I think it's been 42 days. And by about the 10th day, I'm like, okay, I have nothing to do. And I know a lot of people are probably at home wanting to read. The book is more or less ready now. Let's just release the ebook ahead of time to give people something they can read without having to order something from a warehouse, without having to, overtax the already overtaxed warehouse workers and delivery drivers, and, let them deliver the groceries. And, the June 14th date might be, delayed because, again, let them deliver the essential things they're delivering right now. Who knows if printing presses will be even, running by late May and early June. So we just thought, well, get it out now, and people like ebooks. And, I have to say, I was really prejudiced against ebooks, but they're kind of fun. I have a new appreciation for them. So, I'm trying not to cram that down people, because a lot of people are saying, I want to wait for the paperback, and I'm one of those people too. But, I'd like to encourage people to give ebooks a try, because, as you said, you can set it up where it reads itself to you. The end notes are kind of fun. It's kind of like a whack-a-mole kind of pop up kind of info kind of thing. So yeah, I'm having kind of fun with the ebook concept. So I completely forgot what the question was. I just went off on a tangent, didn't I? Things I was ashamed of. Yeah. There's nothing I was really ashamed of. Oh no. The question was why rush it out now? Just to give people something to read that didn't have any germs.
And that's, I love that. That's really awesome. I think a lot of authors and artists are probably worrying about what the bottom line is for the products that they may have, ready to be released soon. And, I know that television shows are scrambling to figure out what to do. Our beloved General Hospital is flirting with the idea of doing a few episodes via Zoom. And so, the idea that you said, hey, I want to give something that's basically a fun read. There are a couple of dark parts that are, I won't even say hard to get through, but they, are real. They're raw and they're honest. But basically, it's a really fun read. And to throw the bottom line out and say, hey, I just want to put this out there. I want to give, I want to give something out. It really inspires me. And there's so many artists that are doing that, these home concerts and so on and so forth. But then you see that, I just recently read that one of the big English artists who, she's very fond of singing Hello, is pushing her release date because she doesn't want lower sales because people can't get out and get a physical copy. And that, that's the dark side, and that hurt my heart.
It's a brand new world. I was really inspired by, I wish I were one of these musicians like my friend Amanda Gary or Randy Rainbow or, all of these musicians who are doing things from their living room and doing free concerts online and things like that. Unfortunately, I'm not that spontaneously gifted. So that was another reason. It's like, well, you have the book, you can offer the book, and we posted episodes of the show for a while. But yeah, it's a brand new world. It's going to be interesting to see how different forms of media react. And because it's a brand new world, I don't think there's really any incorrect way of responding to this, other than maybe protesting and putting people at risk. I don't want to get into politics tonight, so that's all I'm going to say about that. But I think people are reacting however, this is a brand new world, and people are reacting however they react. And if it's to create art, that's terrific. I've had a couple of people say, Leon, how can you put something so frivolous out there when people are dying? That's, that is a legitimate perspective as well. And we just have to respect everyone's perspectives right now and be kind to each other. Which is another reason I'm not going to talk about politics. Not too much.
Yeah, that's something that is startlingly apparent at the human spirit is very, resilient. There are a lot of acts of kindness out there.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, I think that this situation is pushing us in one of two ways. It's either bringing out the very best in us, or it's bringing out the very worst in us. And fortunately, I think people are looking around and saying, hey, you know what? When so much is happening, this is frivolous. This is stupid. I'm not going to put up with this.
Yeah.
And that's the world we live in.
There are a lot of lessons.
Back.
Yeah, there are a lot of lessons to lean into during this, and I just hope we remember them because, people are good at heart. I truly believe Anne Frank was right, but we are also very forgetful. We have very short memory spans, and I just hope we retain a lot of the lessons we learned through this.
I hope so. You mentioned the show a couple of seconds ago, very, very lowly, but you've been putting out an episode a day, and that's another light, another candle lit in the darkness. It's something for people to. Go ahead. Yeah,
not everyone has Amazon, and the show is still on YouTube. So we just thought, again, I can't just pick up a guitar and pluck out a tune on Facebook Live. So I thought, well, I have that I can put up every day and hopefully give people a chuckle or two and let them remember what it was like when we could all go to brunch together and have cocktails together. And we'll get there again someday, won't we? We will. But yeah,
we absolutely will.
That was the motive for that. I just wanted to, again, put out what I could, offer what I have, and try to give people a distraction, a diversion.
So what led you to start writing Sub-Lebrity? And please tell us the story of why Sub-Lebrity.
Sub-Lebrity. Yes, we got to pronounce that hyphen because I am not a celebrity. Sub-Lebrity. There was, in the early days of the show, Old Dogs and New Tricks, there was a review. I don't even remember. The review I remember was overall good, but I don't even remember which blog it was. But the overall tone of it was that I was a raving egomaniac for trying to pull all this off. And it referred to me as a sub-lebrity, which I know it was intended as an insult. But being a completely unknown actor, I took it as a compliment. And I'm all about taking back the power of words like queer and the F word and things like that. So, I had a couple other possible titles, but that was the one that just kind of stuck and seemed like it'd be the shortest and easiest to put on a book cover. And again, it's all about taking back the power of words. So that was where the title came from. The idea for the book really, a lot of my friends and former acting colleagues have written books. And I was just kind of musing on Facebook one day, maybe I should write a book. And a small press publisher approached me and said, yeah, we would be interested. Call our editors and tell them your stories and we'll whip up a manuscript. And I was flattered and kind of insulted at the same time because that's cheating. If I'm going to write a book, I'm going to write a book. So I decided to just do it on my own, and I had originally thought it was going to be like a series, just a short series of essays, and very funny and flippant. And the more I kind of got into it, the more I decided to just tell your story. I truly believe that the Quentin Crisp quote that opens my book, that nobody is boring who will tell the truth about himself. And I told myself that quote a lot while I was writing because I had many spouts of, who cares, Leon? Who cares? No one cares. But I think, as a result of writing this, I think everyone has a unique, interesting story. And I think everyone should write their own life story, whether they plan to publish it or not. The lessons you learn, the kind of insight you get from kind of the long overview. And plus, it's fun.
I hear you say that in the back of my head. I have to make an ode to the Golden Girls. I hear Blanche Devereaux going, they can publish it when I'm dead. Too good.
See, I'm old. I just hear Maude Finley saying, who cares, Walter? Who cares? So
God'll get you for that, Walter.
That's right. But the same, same sensibility, I think.
So I'm going to dive into the book a little bit.
Let's dive.
Let's tell the listeners you start out in rural Indiana.
Yes.
You definitely knew at a very early age. You found some people who you could cling to and some people who did not understand you. And then you decided that at some point you were going to go across country to San Francisco. Tell us a little bit about what that journey was like. Tell us a little bit about, stepping into San Francisco in the glory 80 days.
Oh, my gosh. It was like, that chapter is called Leon in Wonderland. I should have called it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that's a good title for it, but I really felt it was like being Dorothy in the Land of Oz. To go from Indiana in 1981 to, I moved to San Francisco in December of 84. But yeah, to go from Indiana, which was, and I grew up on farms. I mean, there are minority populations in Indiana, in like Indianapolis and Gary and the cities, but not so much where I grew up. So to go from that to this land where I think I actually say in the book it was like a symphony of accents and languages and independent bookstores and independent cinema, and just it was, I grew up just wildly crazy about the concept of show business and California and just life beyond, and just to find myself plopped into the great beyond at age 21 was, oh my gosh, it was a remarkable time. It was. I hope the book just captures a portion of how stimulating and exciting and just eye-opening it was to a 21-year-old farm boy. It was really incredible.
No, it absolutely does. I mean, I very much identify. I grew up in New York City.
Lucky you.
But I could identify with pieces of it. I grew up in a very strict Italian family, so I wasn't allowed to explore things that I really wanted to explore. And,
gotcha.
You talk about, you went there, you went to San Fran with a partner. You guys went out for the first night expecting, this magic. You expected to walk through the gates of Emerald City, and
you want me to tell that story?
Yes, please.
Our flight got into SFO around 6:30 or 7, and it was just getting dark. My boyfriend at the time, Neil, could talk himself into or out of anything, and somehow managed to get us a rental car, even though we didn't have jobs or return tickets or credit cards. So we drove into the city, into Civic Center, which was, we were brand new newbies. All we knew was Civic Center was literally the center of the city. So we go there thinking, we'll get something to eat, and we we get out of the car, and I mean, it was literally thousands of, hippies straight out of Woodstock. I mean, it was like with barefoot, dirty feet, grunge, tie-dye. I mean, it was like, have we traveled to the West Coast or to 1968? Where's this chic, elegant city that I did all this research on? And we drive back to the hotel thinking, oh my God, maybe we were just wrong. Maybe this is a horrible mistake. We put on the news, and it says a Deadhead concert in Civic Center had just let out like half an hour earlier, and like our flocks of Deadheads were Grateful Dead, and flocks of Deadheads were flowing out into the streets of Civic Center, and I was okay. But really, there were for about half an hour to an hour, we're like, oh my God, what? Are we in the right San Francisco? It was really bizarre. Good times.
So, we mentioned earlier that the book does have a couple of moments that are hard to read. You have one particular chapter, Cruel Summer. when you were putting the book all together and you were going back, I would assume you probably had to, go through 3 or 4 times at least to edit it. When you were going through all that, how much more do I want to say? How much less should I take out? How much hit the cutting room floor? And, that chapter makes the book, it really makes it from, as I don't want to say a satire. I don't know exactly what to say. But
tongue-in-cheek, that's how I've been calling it, yeah?
Yeah,
tongue-in-cheek?
Perfect. Yeah, the book has a very tongue-in-cheek feel, and then that makes it completely real. And even though the rest of the book goes back to this tongue-in-cheek tone, we've gone through it with you. And now there's a different feel to the tongue-in-cheek.
I think there may be a couple of reasons why I left it in. First of all, I've said before that, like, the primary theme of the book is being a gay actor. So the main rule was if it wasn't about being gay or being an actor or being a gay actor, leave it out. But that didn't apply in this case because I felt the events of that summer were so formative to who I became as an adult. But another reason I wanted to leave it in is that I know it's a book and not a movie, but I'm a huge fan of movies that suck you in with this like light-hearted tone, and you're really with the characters and laughing with them and enjoying being with them and kind of in your head enjoying being them, and then something just takes a subtle turn and you find yourself kind of like before you're even prepared for it in their shoes in some unexpected. And I guess, I didn't plan that. It's just talking about it now that I kind of like thought, it's kind of like one of those movies. But maybe that's why. I don't know. Maybe I was manipulating the reader without realizing it. But I do think it was kind of important. I was so full of myself my senior year of high school. If you read the book, I think it was kind of, I needed that. Maybe I didn't need quite so much to happen that summer, but I needed something that summer after I graduated to kind of like shake me up and say, Leon, this is real life. This isn't, life is not high school. It's not all about you, and pay attention and stop just coasting through life. Now we've depressed everyone in the listening audience. It really is a funny book.
No, it is, and as like I said just a moment ago, that tone goes back to tongue in cheek, and it's very witty, guys, gals out there listening. It is such a witty, great read. I really have to say. But after Cruel Summer, you are Leon. You're with him. You're either his best friend or you're him. And,
cool.
And you can't wait to find out what happens next, and then what happens next, and Neil's gone, and then there's someone else, and then there's a period of multiple someone else's, and you start acting. And
I have to say, that was one of my favorite chapters, Kissing the Frogs, about all the horrible dates.
Yeah.
Actually, not all of them, because there are even more that I didn't leave, but those were the highlights.
Okay.
Oh my God! And I didn't even really date that much. Imagine if I was like really active, I'd have like a whole book just of that. But yeah, that chapter is just like the bad choices, the missed opportunities, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, and the shouldn't haves, but did it anyways. And we've all, who can't relate to bad romantic choices, except, I don't know, maybe a nun or a priest.
No, and I think we're of the same, we're close in generations, let's put it that way. Where things, we didn't have to fight as hard for the freedoms. We got to enjoy the spoils of those who came before us.
And I did too. I was only like 6 during Stonewall, so there were already certain freedoms hard fought for and won that I took advantage of. So don't knock yourself. Don't beat yourself up.
But
anyway, go on.
Straight, gay, it doesn't really matter. Those of us that were children of the 80s and early 90s, we got to experience freedoms that were hard fought for. But not many of us paid attention to where those fights, how those freedoms were won for us, and how, and I wonder, when you were in San Francisco, when you were living those days, and obviously we know the epidemic, and it's so scarily parallel to what we're going through right now. Yeah. How conscious were you of what was going on and what could be, and how much did that form the choices that you made?
You could not live in San Francisco in the mid to late 80s without being hyper aware, on not just on a daily basis, but a moment-to-moment basis. I mean, there was in Civic Center, there was a park right next to the subway station where the homeless AIDS patients, people living with HIV, it was an encampment. And God bless the city government for not going in and trying to push them out. I mean, I passed that every single day going to work and coming home. Marched in parades, went to protests. Every day or every week, there were 2 gay papers, then BAR, which is still around. And please support. Go to eBar and throw them a donation, because they're a great gay press and they need the money. But anyway, the BAR and Sentinel, and just each week, page after page after page of obituaries. I mean, it was, and I don't want to paint it like it was just such a horrible, bleak time, although it was. I think like during World War II or any prolonged period of, and like what we're going through now, any prolonged period of grief and shock, you do have those moments of levity. I have to say, Lawrence and I, my husband, have had moments where we've laughed harder the past 40 days at certain times, and maybe it's just because we're going crazy from cabin fever. But I think, the bombing of London, the World War II, maybe not 9/11 because that was just too horrific and too intense. But we always find ways of lifting spirits, even in the worst of times. And that was happening in San Francisco. Even though people were literally dying in the streets, I was so tired of seeing 30-year-old men walking with canes or in wheelchairs. There was, at the same time, just an explosion of the arts and political reaction to it. So it was a vibrant, that would be a good word for it. So I don't want to say it was fun. It was a vibrant time to live in San Francisco. It was great in its way.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
I have a caller on the air for you.
There's
a caller on the air for you. Go ahead, caller.
All right.
Hello, son.
Who do we have?
Hello, son. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hello, son. Hello, Norman. Hello, Leon. Hello, Bunky. Did I cover it all?
Oh, someone's read my book.
Do you not know who this is?
I'm horrible at recognizing voices. It's almost as bad with names.
Leon, you're fired. That's it. Last time you're on my show.
Is this Pam?
Yeah.
It is. It's Pam.
Pam! Oh, my God. And, I want to apologize. It wasn't until after I wrote the book that I made the connection that Pam was the one who said that she would introduce me to Ian Buchanan. And I just talk about a talk show. So anyone who reads the book, it was Take Two Radio, Pam Powers. I'm going to update that for the paperback. Another great thing about ebooks, you can go in and make corrections after they've already been out and available. So I'm going to fix that.
That's so
Hello,
sweet,
Pam.
Because until you refreshed my mind by writing that on Facebook, I totally forgot about it.
I knew somebody did. And we did a lot of radio shows back in the early days of the show, and I knew someone, and I knew it was one of the daytime drama related. And then it was only after the came out, and I was making it's like that was Pam, because she knows Ian, and that had to have been Pam. So I'm going to fix that in future editions.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It was my honor. I want to say, first of all, congratulations on the release of the ebook.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm still in the midst of reading it, but I have to tell you, I've already been through a ton of emotions.
Oh, good. I mean, I don't mean good. I mean, you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yes. You hit the mark is definitely, wow.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to finish it. But I have to ask you just a few things so far, because, of course, we don't want to give away too much of the book because we want people to read it.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, didn't anyone know how to drive any type of vehicle in your town? those poor pets of yours. I mean, I just could not believe what I was reading. I was like, oh, no, this can't get worse, but yet it did.
Oh, it does. It's horrible. The poodle getting run over by the school bus was the worst because Mom made us get on the school bus and go to school. That was horrible. But, yeah, no, what Pam's talking about is I talk about growing up on the farm and that actually this is appropriate for this show, that when you grow up on a farm, your pets have the turnover rate of a soap opera cast, because it really was like, one would die, you'd replace it with that one, and then that one would disappear and you'd get another one. And that's,
Thank you.
My gosh, so many of them, and via buses and cars and tractors, and I was like, what is going
school
on
buses.
here?
And mule
rural
races.
America at its worst. Say what?
Oh my gosh.
I'm so protective of my pets now. Lawrence and I take such good care. I mean, vet visits, they eat better than we do. We're so protective of our animals nowadays.
Oh, I can only imagine. I guess it's well, I don't want to say it's good that it happened, but I mean, it probably made you understand more so what grief was and losing a beloved pet, and appreciation now more. You know what I mean? What I'm trying to say?
I think it gave me access very early on to all those emotions that an actor needs to have at their fingertips. Not to say that I appreciate that those things happen, because it's pretty horrific to watch a pig that you raised be pummeled to death by other pigs. But that was another one. The book's full of these happy, fun stories.
Well, moving on a little bit, I wanted to tell you that, just reading your list of TV shows that you watched growing up, I, of course, watched many of them and was a big fan of a lot of them. But, one that stood out to me was Carol Burnett, because who doesn't love Carol Burnett? I mean,
who doesn't? And
I
what?
Think, I was going to say, I think even if they were to go back, people that are, kids nowadays or adults nowadays that weren't kids back then, if they were to go back and watch her show, they would completely love her to death.
Love her to death. And, she's on, I think it's Amazon. They're in the process of releasing all 11 seasons in full, which I can't wait. I cannot wait. And, she's all over YouTube. Yeah, I think kids would appreciate. One of the things I loved about her is because I just loved her as an artist then, and she was a huge inspiration to me getting into this business. But since then, learning as an adult just how cool and nice and decent and giving a person she is. I mean, I picked a pretty good role model. I mean, I don't think anyone in Hollywood has ever heard her say a bad thing, and they certainly don't have bad things to say about her. And, how many of those are there? She's amazing.
Mm-hmm. She's got a heart of gold. She's so funny, and I don't even know. I mean, there's really no words. I just absolutely adore and love her. And one of the things that stood out to me again in your book is Mama's Family. You mentioned that, and that was something that I have on DVD or whatever it is I have it on. My gosh, when they made that into a spin-off series on its own, I about cried.
Yeah, I did too. But I have to say, I don't enjoy Mama's Family as much as the sketches on Carol Burnett, because Mama is so much nicer on the series. One of the things I loved about the earlier family sketches on Carol Burnett, they were brutal. I mean, they were just vicious. It was like Tennessee Williams with a laugh track. And I understand why they had to make her softer. If it, a dose of that every week for 5 years you would get bruised. They had to make her more likable for the series. But yeah, I just loved it when they were just screaming at each other, the most hateful insults, and then turning around immediately and like kissing, hugging and making up. Which let's face it, too many families are like that.
Right, exactly. It was a dose of reality in a way. You could. Oh my gosh! But I wanted to know if you could put together a cast for a new Mama's Family, who would you play and who would you hire as other characters?
Oh my God! Almost have to say my childhood friend Cheryl Burton would have to play Mama because we grew up playing Eunice and Mama as kids, and to this day, when I see her, we slip right back into those horrible accents and those awful insults, and it's just pathetic. That's my gosh. Of course, I guess that means I'd have to play Eunice in drag, which would not be a pretty sight. I don't know if I could recast that. That would be like trying to recast Gone with the Wind. You just, there's no replacing those actors, really. They're one of a kind.
Oh my gosh! But I could see you doing it. I really could.
Maybe for Halloween one year.
Yeah. Maybe do a YouTube 1 or 2 episode or something of it. Just recreating the characters and doing something there. That would be good. That would be good. I would watch it.
Sam, you may have created a monster.
Thank you. That excites me to no end. Oh my gosh. Okay, so thank you for answering my questions and thank you for being on the show tonight. And I want to say thank you to Anthony for doing the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Isn't Anthony good? He's such a good interviewer. Well, you're both great. I always enjoy doing the show because you guys do your homework. Nothing worse than going on a talk show and having them say, well, tell us about yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
You do your homework. You ask specific questions. It's always so much fun to do your show.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Pam gave us the perfect segue. So we're going to go from one classic TV series to another. You had a very interesting and, shall we say, tumultuous relationship. What would I call it? With Cindy Brady. And you speak in great detail in the book. I'm not going to give it all away, but can you give us an overview of how that all happened?
Well, that wasn't really a relationship. That was, at most, it was a one-night stand. I should just be totally vague and just let your listeners draw their own conclusions by the book, thinking we had an affair. We found ourselves on politically different ends of the spectrum on a talk show, and had some words on social media as a result, and she went off on me. She got fired. It was like I can't use the S word on your show. It was a poop storm for about a week. Just crazy. And what's insane now, it's like people have no memory of it. But at the time, I was getting like letters from cousins I hadn't heard from in 20 years, and schoolmates, and interview requests from Entertainment Weekly and then Entertainment Tonight and CBS. It was like the year-end story on the ABC Year in Review, and which just struck me as like, really? After everything that happened in 2016, a has-been and a never was get into an argument on a radio show, and that's one of your top stories. I don't want to give too much away. It's in the book. One of the reasons, actually, that I put it in the book is that once I stop talking about it in interviews, I never have to talk about it again. I can just say, oh, it's in the book. Read the book.
Yeah. And yes.
But yeah, it was one of the. It was an early. It was right after the election, and it was just. I think it was just the timing. A lot of people were very frustrated, and it played on a lot of people's frustrations at the time. That's a diplomatic way of putting it.
And it absolutely highlights the difference between class in having a difference of opinion and crass. You know, you change one letter and you have a completely different word definition, and it really, you know, that situation highlights the fact that, you know, there are ways to do things and there are absolute definite ways not to do things. And Leon puts the messages, he puts it out there in the book, and you can draw your own conclusions, but I'm sure you'll all draw the same conclusion that we did. And I will sharing all of that, because
if the listeners remember it vaguely, I mean, that chapter has everything in it. I can't imagine anyone having any questions after reading that chapter, because it's pretty thorough. Because
and what they'll walk away with is it's worth standing up for yourself. You know, I know you've said in other interviews that, you know, were you given the choice, the initial choice to go on the actual show, you wouldn't have. But everything that followed it, you know, it most definitely highlights that it's worth standing up for yourself. It's worth standing up for what you believe in, you know, and it may be an storm for a little while, but in the end, you know, you can look in the mirror and say, I did the right thing.
You know, it's also the way I was raised. My dad was always, and it's funny because I don't recall my dad ever sitting me down and having a conversation saying, you know, you have to stand up for blah, 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 and all this stuff. But we were always, my sister and I were raised that you didn't back away from a fight. And if you were right, you had a pretty strong foundation and you didn't have to back down. That said, sometimes I think I come across as a hypocrite because sometimes I'm the least civil person on Facebook that there is, and I really need to dial it back sometimes myself. But I try not to go below the belt. Well, there's one person that I get pretty cruel with, but anyway. Other than that, I really do try not to just resort to insult. If I can help it.
You know, you depicted it pretty fairly. It's not one-sided, you know, and including all the messages and so on and so forth, you know, it gives it the air of authenticity as on top of it. So buy the book, everyone, because... Yeah,
buy the book. And then email me any questions you have. My email address is actually in the front of the book. So if you read it and have any questions, I will happily answer questions in private. It's just that the problem about talking about it in public is that they're like, how do I say this? There are people in the gray area, kind of in between. And I don't want to alienate or piss off anyone who should not be alienated or pissed off, if that makes any sense. Does that make sense?
Okay. It does. It absolutely does.
Read the book, and that'll either piss you off or, you know.
Or inspire you.
Hopefully inspire you.
Pam, our wonderful show leader, called you Bunky, and Bunky comes from your dad. And
my dad's nickname, yeah.
One of the beautiful running themes through the book is the evolution of your relationship with your dad. And you told me a couple of weeks ago to, you know, wait till I get to the end and it will all come together. But for those of us who are LGBT and who may not have had the perfect relationship with a parent, it definitely speaks. It speaks to the ups, the downs, and how beautiful it can turn out if you just live and you just try to live the best way you can with your family, with your friends. So I just want to say thank you for putting that in there. I lost my dad 4 years ago, and
I'm sorry.
You know, it was. Thank you. It was helpful to me to be able to kind of go back and put things in perspective. And when my dad passed, we were amazing friends. But I always say, I found a dad friend later on in life, but growing up, he did not understand me. I did not understand him, and I couldn't wait to get away. But, perspective and hindsight is 20/20. But it's beautiful that, he's such an actual character in the book.
He's one of my best friends now, and he's one of the most remarkable man I know or I've ever known. And it's a shame it's taken me so long to get to that point. It's awful that when we're kids, we're constantly focusing on the things that we have that we don't have in common. And, it takes us most of our adult life to get to a point where we realize, we actually have more in common than I ever really wanted to admit. I mean, we're wildly different, my dad and I, but we do share, like when we get it in our head to do something, there's no stopping us. And he's, again, my dad, you have to understand, he was a period of his time. I think my dad did absolutely remarkable considering the information he had at the time and the stereotypes that were so prevalent at the time. And, 60s, 70s, I don't know too many fathers who could have just easily embraced a gay son. I say in the book, if I had a son who was like more into football and farming than books and acting, I wouldn't have a clue what to do with them either.
Absolutely. But your perspective, it evokes the feeling of like, hey, I should kind of go back and relook at some of the things that I think and some of the things that I felt. And those words couldn't be truer, for me as well. My dad did the best with what he had, where he came from and who he was. And, I remember when I came out to my sister had said something to my dad and he was like, well, tell him there's no need to talk. There's no need to talk to me about it. It's not happening. And for years I took that as like a battle armor. Not that I flaunted it in his face, but hey, you don't want to know that, then you don't want to know me. By the time he had grandchildren, and he was the most amazing grandfather, and I guess that was most definitely part of the healing process for us. But now I look back and I think to myself, he didn't know a better way. And once I got over the anger and saw him with my niece and nephew, it was like, okay, he may not have been the greatest dad in the world, but he was not in any way, shape, or form a horrible dad. He just was an uninformed. Sorry, go ahead.
You hit it right on the head. I mean, that's how they were raised. That was how their fathers were. They didn't know any other way, and it was a steep learning curve, I think, for both of our dads. God bless them for like pushing the envelope and living outside their comfort zone and learning to deal. And thank God you and I have both reached an age where we can like kind of see that, and grant a little slack, cut them some slack that we might not have done when we were 21 or 22.
What did you learn? What did you learn about yourself that you didn't know before you started writing this book?
Gosh, I could spend the hour just answering that question. The biggest thing probably was how much of a drama queen I was when I was younger. I was so used after, growing up and being bullied in school and then having that cruel summer happen and then just, some dramatic stuff early on, I kind of had this mindset that, you always have to function in disaster. So, often when there was no disaster happening, I would create a disaster just to have something to react to. And it's been interesting writing the book and kind of realizing, oh, my God, you didn't have to go through that or that or that or that. That's why I always say, I keep telling my friends, write your life story. Because you just, and that's like the first one off the top of my head. There's so many like little lessons. Forgiveness. I've forgiven so many people writing this book because you realize, we all make mistakes. We all do the best we can. Like, talking about dads, we do the best we can with the information we have. And then, 20 years down the road, you look back and go, oh, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I was too rigid. That's something else. I've learned that I was really rigid early on. I've joked a lot that, people think that I'm just like Nathan in Old Dogs and New Tricks. I'm actually, in my 20s, I was much more like Muscles, which seems insane because physically I'm nothing like Muscles, but I was very much like that character, and I had very strict rules, like relationships had to be this. I would only date that kind of guy, which, and again, with age and wisdom, you kind of let go of that stuff.
Did you have to do much forgiving of yourself through this process?
Wow, that's a good question. That is a really good question. Wow. You just stopped me dead in my tracks. I would say I guess I would say, yeah, I'd have to, because I don't think if for example, if I were still shaming myself over some of the events of Cruel Summer, I would never even, flirted with the idea of writing about it. I think I forgave myself before I started writing it, because I don't think I could have entertained the idea of writing a memoir if I had that kind of baggage. I try not to have regrets. I try not to hold grudges. And when someone annoys me, I try to just tell them immediately and get it off my chest. And sometimes that's not always a good idea. But yeah, it's about being in the moment, really. I guess that was the biggest lesson in writing the book is that how much of my life I was not in the moment. And now that I'm 56, I don't have to worry about, my future or saying, I can really be my authentic self and speak my mind and not create dramas and not be cruel unnecessarily and not, and including myself, and not, beat myself up for mistakes that I've made, that I've learned from. Because I really believe if you learn from a mistake, it stops being a mistake. Maybe that's why I was able to write about some of that stuff.
That's a really good point. It becomes a life lesson and a learning experience. Yeah, I really like that. Is there
I think I learned that from acting, actually, because, you make a lot of mistakes, especially when you're starting out as an actor, and you hopefully learn from them. And yeah, if you learn from it, then it's a lesson, not a mistake.
Is there anyone you were afraid to actually have read the book now that it's done?
Oh, yeah, but if I say who they are.
Well,
no, I can say there's a couple co-stars, a couple actors I've worked with who probably are not going to be too thrilled. For the most part, I've changed names when I needed to legally. There are a couple actors I didn't need to legally, but nonetheless, that they, although I don't know, one of them's such an egomaniac, he'll probably thrilled just to see his name in print. So what do I know? And I'm not going to say which one I'm talking about. You probably can figure it out. But actually, Susan Olsen, if there's the day I get the email from her will be the day my stomach does a flip-flop. But that day may never come. Hello?
Oh, hold on. Leon?
Yeah.
You still there? Anthony
We went over?
just dropped.
Oh. Well, then we'll just talk to you until he calls.
And he's back. Hold on. All right.
Okay, I don't know what is going on. I'm having technical difficulties here today. Can you hear me?
Blacktop doesn't seem to like you today.
Anthony,
I got
have cheekbones? Because
I do.
My cheekbones frequently will disconnect calls on my cell phone sometimes. That's the only thing I can figure out. It'll just disconnect, and it's like, well, okay, they must have just hit my cheekbone. I don't know. It sounds like a good excuse.
You know what? I'm going to go with that the next time. Now my cheekbone hung up on you. So wow, way to break a great conversation. Where were we? Okay.
I don't know. You want to? Go ahead.
I'm gonna go to Old Dogs and New Tricks, and I love this. You told us on our show a while back, and you told it in a conversation we had recently as well. What were you originally gonna call it?
No, you're gonna make me say that again.
I am.
It was a working title, Silver Foxes, which makes me gag to this day. It's almost as bad as the word webisode. Yeah, Silver Fox. I had to have something to call it while I first started writing it, and Golden Girls, Silver Foxes. Yeah, okay, sure. It didn't last too long. But it's not a totally inaccurate title. I mean, it could have worked, but I think there's been shows called that since. So.
No, and the Old Dogs opens up at Nathan's 50th.
Yes.
And it most definitely set the tone. And so now, the show has almost a cult fan base. The popularity is great. It's amazing. It made it to Amazon. Now that you look back on it, it was definitely a journey. Read the book. It was definitely a journey to get it out there. Now that you look back on it, what are you most proud of, and what does it mean to you now to know that legacy is going to precede you? It's going to follow way longer than any of us will be here.
One hopes. I mean, God, until Amazon gets sold to Netflix and they just take us off or something, I don't know. It's incredibly gratifying. I mean, I couldn't possibly list all the positive things resulted from that show. The biggest takeaway for me is just connecting with viewers and having them tell me, like, oh my God, you just told my story. That happened a lot, and that was incredibly gratifying. Oh my gosh, my friends are just like that. That kind of thing. But just to have a substantial body of work that you can be proud of, because I've done a lot of things I'm proud of that disappeared, and I've done a lot of crappy shows that unfortunately stuck around longer than they should have. So it's nice to have something of value and merit with my name on it that I'm really proud of. So that's the takeaway. But yeah, talking to viewers and really making the connection. And I made so many friends during the course of that show, both on the set and with the people involved in the show, but also with viewers and some like Jason and Scotia and some who are like good friends now who went from just being, I don't want to say just fans because fans are remarkable, but went from fans to producers to actually good friends in my life. But again, I could speak for the next 12 hours about all the good things. It was an incredible, and this is Take Two Radio. I want to shout out not daytime actors and daytime actors fans. The daytime actors, I swear to God, they show up, they know their lines. Not only just their lines, their motivation, they have ideas, they ask questions, they nail it on the first take. And soap opera fans are the most wonderful. I mean, Tom Biertz was the first actor we got from Young and the Restless, and the fan base he brought. And to this day, I'm friends with a lot of them. I mean, they are really devoted and faithful. And so that was another great thing, connecting with that wonderful fan base that has kept daytime TV alive despite the networks wanting to just kill it off completely. Many great things.
Absolutely.
Stop me whenever you need to, because I could just go on and on.
Well, I've always wanted to ask this, and since it's just me tonight, how conscious were you in creating, and then, I mean, it came back again and again and again. How conscious were you of the fact that, yes, there are camp moments. It's, it is a sexual comedy. But were you conscious that it was really one of the first shows? We had Will and Grace. We now have Modern Family Ending. Please don't get me started on what I think about them. But
don't get me started either. We'll talk in private about that.
You were one of the first shows that showed us for who we really are and how we really are. And yeah, again, like I said, the camp moments were there, and we all have a Jack McFarlane kind of friend. We all have a Muscle.
A Nelson Vanetti.
But honestly, it was the first time that we saw so many different shades of our community, and played out. Was that something that you were actively working towards, or is that just your storytelling and it just came out to be that way?
Well, first, I want to give credit where it's due. We were kind of part of a wave. There were, shows, most of them after our pilot, but no, it was a wave where the Bears Are and Husbands, and so we weren't really. We might have been. Were we the first? I don't know if we were. I'd have to look that up before I claim that title. But it was a wave. I wanted it to be real. I wanted the characters. I wanted them to feel like the viewer's friends. I wanted the viewer to feel like they were a fifth old dog. You know what I mean?
I do.
I did want to have moments of camp. That's really where Bruce Hart and Nelson Vanetti came off so well. And if you notice, every time they have a fight, whenever I feel like the show goes too far campy, I reel it back and it was just a dream or a fantasy or a I found a way to have our cake and eat it too. But because I really wanted to, and it's funny, I have so many people have given me compliments on our Halloween special, WeHo Horror Story. I personally feel like that probably the least realistic, the most fantastical of all the episodes we did. It's Halloween, I guess we got away with it. But yeah, overall, I really wanted it to feel real and relatable and funny, but grounded in reality as much as we could.
Well, I mean,
still be funny and sexy.
I'll give you a daytime soap fan perspective, a primetime drama fan perspective. It's those special episodes that last year Days of Our Lives did a phenomenal Halloween episode. And even in the doldrums, it's like, hey, I want to put that back on because I'm having a bad day. I want to lay in bed, and so on. And so when those, when you have that base where we are the fifth old dog. You're absolutely right. And then to put on something that's fanciful and fun and playful, it's a bonus.
I guess, now that you put it that way, I guess it's kind of like the musical episode of Buffy, the Vampire Slayer.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'll look at it in that perspective. Thank you for that. Okay, that kind of, all right. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, okay, cool.
So you're putting out, you've been putting out an episode a day. I know that there were plans to revisit Old Dogs. What can you tell us about the possibility that we'll get a final season?
Well, like everything else in the universe, it's kind of on hold. We had a fundraiser. I was against the idea for the longest time because I felt like I'd finally made peace with the show was over. And a couple of the actors and my husband, the producer, and several fans have really been like, no, you never did a series finale. And they know that I'm a sucker for a good series finale. And so I eventually gave in, and we started a fundraising campaign, and then COVID happened. So we kind of just put that on the back burner. When we can do it, I would love to do it. It'd be interesting to see how one writes a sex comedy post-COVID-19. But in the interim, actually, let me tell you about this, because the interim, this coming Tuesday, Arvin Batista, who was a driving force of the show behind the scenes, he was our season 1 well, he directed episodes all through the entire run, but was our sole director in the first season, who was very influential in the development of the show. He and I are going to have a watch party on Facebook Tuesday night of the entire first season. So people go to my Facebook page. I'm going to have information up probably tomorrow with links for that. Basically, we're going to watch the entire first season and just chat with viewers and answer their questions while we do. The second thing we're working on, I don't have a date for this, but it is something we're working on. We were so inspired by Parks and Rec is doing one, but Gracie and Frank. So I always get that title. Is it Frankie and Grace or Grace and Frankie? Anyway, they did a Zoom table read of an unproduced episode. So we, all the Old Dogs cast is on board, and we're trying to organize a Zoom reading of 3 episodes that no one has seen yet. So that is very exciting. We hope to get that up sometime in May. It's, I'm not a singer. I can't sing you a tune live on Facebook, but I'm doing the next best thing.
Do you have any bloopers or things that didn't make it to the final cut that you could, once the episodes are finished and you put, one a day,
oh yeah,
a bunch of seasons,
they're on YouTube, They're on YouTube, and I have to say, we ran through the run of the series now. I'm not posting episodes anymore because we went through them all, but maybe that's something I could post because, yeah, we have blooper reels for all 3 seasons. We also actually on YouTube, there are commentaries, like the entire season with me giving commentary. Those are on YouTube too. I guess I could post those on Facebook too, couldn't I? You're just giving me all sorts of inspiration, Anthony. You and I should talk every day. Not on the radio. I wouldn't bore everyone every day with that. But no, yeah, we should call me every day and inspire me with new ideas.
Well, you said earlier that everybody should write a book.
Absolutely.
And I like that as the message of the project itself. But what do you want people to take away once they're, what's the driving message of your book?
Probably I would like people to walk away with it with a sense of it's okay to pursue your dreams even if you're not going to make a living at it. Especially nowadays, because the internet's changed everything. It's hard to make a living as a journalist. As so many industries have been kind of like kneecapped by the internet. Don't let that stop you. And also, we are in the world of DIY. Maybe that's what I should have called the book, the DIY Queen. But if you want to do a series, and no one will hire you to do one yourself. If you want to write a book, back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, they called it the vanity press. It was like shameful to publish your own book. That stigma's gone, and it's so easy to do it now. If you want to publish a book, make sure you write a good book first, but, publish it yourself. Don't wait. And this has always been something I think is, since I was a kid, you just don't wait for someone to give you permission. If you really want to do something, you just figure out how you can do it, and then you do it.
Awesome. So tell our listeners where they can find the book. You've already said multiple times that we can get Old Dogs and New Tricks both back on YouTube, but it is on Amazon Prime, everyone. It is available to stream if you are a Prime member for free.
When you search for it, be sure to type in that ampersand, Old Dogs and New Tricks. Otherwise, you're going to get a British show called New Dogs. You're going to get this college show called New Dogs and Old Tricks. Yeah, there are all sorts of variations. But for some reason, that ampersand will take you to the right show.
And the book?
And the book, Sub-Lebrity, you can go to Amazon.com and just search either my name, Leon Acord, which is A-C-O-R-D, or the book title, Sub-Lebrity, and that's a hyphen between sub and Lebrity, and we didn't even talk about that yet. And for any other links to follow me on Facebook or Twitter or any of those, go to my website, Leon Acord, that's LeonAcord.com. And scroll down to the contact page, and all my links are there.
David, do we have anyone else calling in?
I have someone who might be interested in calling in. Let me, do we have time for a caller?
We do.
Yeah, we do. And David actually had to step away for a moment, so I'm back on here. And I want to ask you, and I want to ask you one question before you bring somebody else on. Now,
absolutely.
I've asked this question of several guests in the past, but I'm going to change the age of it. I usually ask, what would you tell your 16-year-old self, about life now and what you should worry or not worry about. But I'm going to change it back to 7 or 8-year-old Leon, because that really stuck out to me. That was like kind of the beginning of your merry-go-round.
Understanding. Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
good
gosh,
question,
Pam. That is a good question. First of all, I'd give him a big hug. Poor guy. And I would confirm that, yes, you are right. Those people making fun of you are assholes. There's nothing wrong with you. 7 and 8, yeah, I wouldn't be too specific about any kind of romantic stuff or college stuff.
Right.
I would just say, just keep being you, I guess is what I would say, and just don't let the turkeys get you down. Just keep on trucking. That was a phrase back in that era. Maybe I would use that. You would relate to that. Keep on trucking.
I'm hip to that, yeah.
Cool. I even visualized the T-shirt with the big foot. Yeah, keep on trucking.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my gosh. And I'm not going to say I was that age and that I actually physically owned one. I'm just going to pretend it was something that my mother wore, okay?
Yeah, you saw grown-ups wearing that. Absolutely. Me too. Me too. Me too.
Oh, my gosh. So we have a caller. So we're going to bring him on because I have a feeling I know who it is. Hello, caller.
You might know who it is.
I think I know who that is.
Am I on?
I recognize
that voice. Welcome, you are.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Leon, would
Hi.
you like to introduce?
Yes, I would like everyone to meet my husband, Lawrence Whiting.
Hello there. Yes, this is Lawrence Whiting. It's been marvelous listening to Anthony and Pam and Leon.
Actually, no, I have to. That was a crappy introduction. My husband and my producing partner at Larry Productions, Lawrence Whiting. There we go.
Applause, applause. Bow, fake humility.
Cut! The lighting wasn't right on that, Leon, and I think you stumbled over. Take 3.
Leon, you have been fired for the second time tonight.
Well, that's why you guys are the show hosts, and I'm just the merely Sub-Lebrity who pops in to pretend to be a star.
Oh, Leon, you have no idea how I want to dive into the sub of Sub-Lebrity, but I'm going to be. It's Take 2 Radio. I'll let everybody use their imaginations.
I deny all. I deny everything.
Well,
Lawrence,
as Leon's husband, I will
us.
tell you. As Leon's husband, I will tell you one thing. He does refer to himself in this book as a sub-lebrity. I don't necessarily agree with that, but from a perspective of life at home, there's one person who definitely plays the star, and I'll just say that's not me.
And now the secrets come out.
Well, and as Joan Collins would say, I don't want to have to fight with someone for the mirror. So I guess I have to cop it and own that.
Well, and which is why we moved. Why we have a double sink now.
I know, we're 2 mirrors. We don't have to compete. The secret to a happy marriage.
Yes, the double sink bathroom is definitely a must in some
especially these
relationships.
days with all the hand washing going on. You've got to have 2 sinks in that bathroom.
Are they
Absolutely.
6 feet apart, though?
They are actually, they're about 4 feet. So if we had to, we could kind of lean out.
Well, if we had to, but we figure at this point, it's we're all we've got. So unfortunately, for the most part, we're getting along actually quite well. As Leon said much earlier, we've had some moments of absolute hilarity, which I think have been a combination of love and something funny and ridiculous happening, and also the general sort of,
entrapment,
being locked in the same place for 42 days. But I have to say that's a minor complaint, because we're keenly aware that there are people who are suffering significantly.
Truly suffering.
There are the frontliners who are out there every single day, 24/7, really truly saving lives and are the true heroes. So what we're trying to do, what I try to do as a producer, is to support Leon. What Leon is trying to do is simply to entertain people. And the goal you mentioned, why do the book at this time, or the sort of reverse, do the ebook first, because we thought, well, okay, it's really Leon's thing, but he was heartfelt about it. He wanted to put something out there that would give people some joy, even if it was just for a few minutes. And that may sound corny, but it's true.
No, we thank him for that. I mean, that's truly somebody that has a heart, and it shows. And you wear it on your sleeve, whether you think so or not.
Yeah, thanks. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I have to add one other thing as husband. I won't go on too long, because the show is really about Leon, but this is also about Leon.
That's
it was
right.
a joy for me. It was I read pages as I was going along, but then of course eventually I was able to read the entire book, and I have to say my own husband impressed me. I've known him for coming on, it'll be June. We'll have been together. I'm aging us 28 years. And I just learned so much. He would refer to little things, especially the first part where he was growing up, and I had no idea how hard he worked, like that he literally worked that hard on a farm, hands to the bone kind of thing. Because I've only known him as an erudite city dweller. And so there is a character that Leon has, that this is sort of this solid Midwestern. His parents, who are just incredible people, and his entire family, really, I adore them all, have given him a wonderful foundation. I, on the other hand, and that's why, I think part of our relationship works well on this level, is that I came from a broken home. I did not have good examples. His parents have been married, 55 years, Leon?
Oh, 60, I think.
60 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably about.
Oh my God,
probably about. You're right.
Wait, that needs a moment. Hold on. 60 years. God bless. That needs a moment. I'm sorry, Lawrence, continue.
No. That's why I brought it up.
I got to say, that's one of the secrets to there are many secrets to a long, happy marriage. Having good role models is one of the biggest secrets of a successful marriage. I'm very lucky to have parents who, and not to say they didn't have times when both Tammy and I were like, guys, maybe you should split up, but they fought it through and made it work, and they love each other more now than they ever have, and they're just so cute to see together now. So, yeah, I'm very lucky.
Yeah, and I think for Leon, because his parents have had their ups and downs, as all couples do, but I think that was a good example for him. As we've talked about, as Leon talks about in the book, there were not, certainly not at the time of my growing up, and I think for Leon as well, he's a little bit younger than me, 6 years younger. There were no role models for how to do a gay relationship. There was no such thing, really. So what you do, you had to look at other examples.
There were role models. We were supposed to grow up, be miserable, kill ourselves, and die. That was the role model.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm talking, of course, about positive role models. And straight people have trouble with positive role models. So his parents are great that way, and I think that's given him a certain stability. I think it's helped our relationship in that sense as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it truly makes a difference.
Absolutely, and we're very glad you consented to come on. It was a spur of the moment idea, but you guys are so awesome on Facebook and the rest of the platforms, and for those that are intimate with Leon, as far as following the dogs.
Wait a minute. Thousands of people who've been intimate with Leon.
For those of us who can call Leon an actual friend,
absolutely. There you go.
we love and are inspired by the beautifulness of 28 years of the the producing partnership, but also it's very apparent how much you like each other. Loving each other is one thing, but not everybody who loves each other likes each other. So
best friends.
I think
yeah.
I'm
sorry, I didn't interrupt.
And I think
Well, you're absolutely right, Anthony, and we feel. I personally feel very, very blessed. Very, I mean, that's everyone uses that word, but truly, it's a stroke of lightning when you have someone in your life, as we both do with each other, that we truly are. I mean, it's not like we agree all the time or get along all the time, but we truly are great friends above all, and just very lucky to have that.
Yeah. Very lucky.
Can I ask you two hard/dramatic questions and then have a little fun with the two of you? Is that okay?
Sure.
That's
up to the Sub-Lebrity.
Okay.
I can always, sure, you can always ask a question.
If you three are going to have fun, should I release my call or what?
No, Pam, I promise I'll keep it PG-13. So 28 years, you guys work together, you guys are best friends. There had to have been hard times. What kept it, what's the secret? What would you say? I'm going on my first year with the most amazing person, the most amazing man I have ever met. What's your secret? What'd you use to get through the hard times?
Lawrence, do you want to go first or should I?
I'll go first because you're the Sub-Lebrity, so you get to close it out. The star always gets the final shot.
Don't you? He never remembers that at home.
Like a true producer.
I'm going to hold him. I'm going to remind him he said those words.
Ultimately,
just
of course.
Just play back this episode.
Of course, years and years and years, you go through so many different things, and that also includes life events like, deaths of relatives and friends and births and weddings and, all of those life experiences and careers and then now an epidemic and previously 9/11s and Great Depressions and, so you go obviously through a lot. I guess the simplest is that, first of all, in a sense, we took our time. We did not live together for almost a whole year before we did. And we were practically living together, but there was something good about not officially living together that I think kind of helped us in that first year. And
yes.
Because, I don't think we really talked about this, but I don't think either one of us wanted to lose our individual identities. Neither of us had actually been with anybody, in a relationship sense for a while at that point when we met. So I think for me, and I can't speak for Leon, but I know, I'm sure I felt in my heart I didn't want to lose myself at the same time. Because you can tumble into love very easily and then tumble out of it, in a horrible manner. And then when we finally did live together, we did nothing but fight for the first 5 years. A lot of,
not 5 years, but
well, it was no, but there were years of, remember, and I look at this very matter of factly, to a man and a woman and a woman, and a man are very different dynamics. Each of those dynamics are different. if you're talking about two male egos, it's just a different dynamic with really every relationship. So, there was a lot of headbutting and stuff like that. So there were times when it got really bad. There were times when we almost broke up. There were all sorts of, when we threatened to break up. The simplest advice I can give is if you really love the person at the beginning, if you really, really had felt that way, if you really felt like this is the one, then don't let that temporary anger get the better of you. Stick it out. It's so easy to walk away. It's so much easier to walk away when things are tough. I have gone through so much pain to get to the other side where there is the joy and the love. Now, after 28 years, I'm shocked to say that we probably get along better than ever in many ways. In some ways, we're more independent because we are older, and you kind of, you have different horizons and different views. But on the fundamental level, I do honestly believe that getting through all of this stuff made it even better now to get here. And now I'm looking at, I'll retire, let's say, within the next 5 to 7 years. I'm not that old, but I'd like to slow down at least. And I would also like to perhaps dabble in other things without the pressure of a quote-unquote career, because my career has always been as a catering and events professional and then on the side with Leon. In fact, I would love nothing more than spend more time supporting Leon's stuff because I love it. I love the Old Dogs and New Tricks. Is one of the greatest experiences of my entire life. That whole episode of shooting 4 seasons and the cast and the crew and the incredible people that you get to meet when you're in that industry. He brought that to me. It's great. It's one of the greatest gifts I've ever had. And that's really the greatest gift I have from Leon is his heart, his soul. Who he is has helped inform better who I am, even though in career perspectives we're still in separate careers and doing separate things, but I love hopping over into his world. And every once in a while, he's even hopped over into my world.
And then hop quickly back.
Yeah. Because he's definitely, let me put it this way, I'm the cook in the family. What was the joke the other day when you said, honey, I can cook?
No, Lawrence actually literally the other day, I said, he was kind of complaining, I don't feel like cooking. I said, I can cook. And he's without censoring himself first, which maybe he should have, he responded, I don't want your food. Oh. Okay.
But this is a running thing. He's telling this, it is a little bit out of context. There is a history. And
Not
let's
a horrible
put it this
cook.
way. I'm just a much better cook. I am a caterer by trade. That doesn't mean I'm a great master chef, but I can work my way around the kitchen. If we had the money, I would hire a cook because I love being cooked for.
And he loves to eat. We both love to eat, actually.
Yeah, we both.
But I want to answer that question too.
Yeah.
My answer to it is, you have to like and respect the person. You can't just be lust, and you can't think with your head, your intellect, or with your eyes. Like they've got to look like this, or they've got to do this for a living, or drive that kind of car, or God forbid even be, my same political affiliation. You have to be open to your heart and go by that reaction, how your heart reacts when you meet the person and how you feel when you're with the person. Because as I said earlier, I was like Muscles and Old Dogs and New Tricks. I had all these rules, and once I left and never had any success in dating. You read the book. Once I let go of all that stuff and listened to my friends and realized this is about a connection other than just physical or just one, or it's about a kind of a synergy kind of thing that happens when you meet the right person. So my biggest piece of advice, other than the 2 sinks in the bathroom, is just keep your heart open. And when you find yourself reacting to someone that you wouldn't necessarily have thought of as a romantic partner, stay open to that. Go lean into it, because you'll be surprised. That's very often the direction you should be going. I'm done.
And real quick, in relationships, and I don't care if it's, hetero or gay or whatever, there's always one person that says I'm sorry first, just so that you guys can get past whatever you're going through at the moment.
It's the gardener.
So
It's the gardener and the flower. Neil Simon says it perfectly. He says in every relationship, one person is the flower and one person is the gardener. Lawrence is the gardener. He's the one who's. Well, no, wait a minute though. Says I'm sorry first though. Yeah. No, that would be Lawrence. That would be Lawrence.
I'm the nice one. No.
It usually takes 3 hours of not talking before he does, but he will say, "I'm sorry" first.
I'm sure that we all have our little peccadillos, or little ups and downs and idiosyncrasies. But I think in a relationship, like I kind of said earlier, there's a certain balance, I think, that is achieved in a good relationship. And I think that's kind of like chemistry that you can't predict. It's either going to happen or it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. It can be developed more. We've worked on the relationship in our early years. I'd say within the first 10 years, we did, couples therapy and all sorts of stuff to address things. But I like it. I try not to be too codependent. But, I'm a nurturer by nature. And I literally like gardening and watering and seeing things grow. So I'm kind of naturally a person who likes to promote and support. So as such, when when we got together, and he initially wasn't really acting. He had just finished a film that he had produced and directed and written and starred in himself, and it took years of his life, and it's all in the book.
Egomaniac.
It's all in the book. But he was kind of exhausted, I think, from that, and he wasn't really wanting to. I really ratcheted that up because I saw the talent in Leon and the potential, and I felt it was unrealized potential, and so I started pushing him. But Leon does not rely on me. And I want to be really clear about that. As much as, he might rely on me in certain ways that, he can express. But in other words, he's very self-motivated, very self-directed. I do not have to push, encourage. He's like a creativity well. There's constantly stuff coming up. So what I need to do when he's got serious projects that he's working on is help him shape them in such a way that, they will be whatever his ultimate goal is to be, viable in whatever way that means. Because for him, he's an artist. It's really not typically about money. I'm more interested in the money. I'm like, can we make money? But, he's an artist in that way. He truly just wants to create and make people happy, make himself happy with it, because it can be a joyful and also painful experience to create art.
And figure out how to pay for it
and
later.
Then we try, but I like the idea of, we live in a capitalist society. There's nothing wrong with monetizing it and turning it into something that can earn you a living. It's not done that yet, actually, for either one of us, but we're always working on it.
Wow, dang, yeah, absolutely. So let's have a little bit of fun before we finish up for tonight. I'm gonna ask Lawrence a couple of questions, and Leon, feel free to jump in along the way. But I will start with: does Leon snore?
That's actually a really funny question. A little, not a lot. A little.
I'm not trying to start a fight between the two of you.
No. Are you kidding? That fight was had long ago.
I know. I have a worse habit than snoring, I'm told. I make noise in my sleep, but it's not like talking in my sleep. I like grunt and that kind of stuff.
And he yawns, like really loud, scary yawns in the middle of the night. So he's like, he doesn't move or get out of bed or sleepwalk or anything, but, sometimes there can be these really kind of weird sounds that come out. But they're not snores. They're not snores, so they might sort of jar me out of my sleep temporarily, but after all these years, I'm kind of used to it.
Which is his better side?
Is that a question for me?
Either one of you, but...
Oh, okay. Let Leon answer it, because he knows
I know
which
the
side
answer,
is his
of course.
Yes.
Go on, Leon. Which is your better side?
Oh, it's it's my right, but it would be your left. So if you're looking at me, it'd be my left side. just because I have a lump in my nose where if I turn my head a certain way, it disappears. So, yeah, that's my good That comes from being in front of cameras for 100 years. So
Exactly. Who does the dog love just a little bit more?
Our doggy is gone. He died a couple of years ago. We have a cat now, Toby.
But the dog, Charlie, loved Lawrence way more than me. He worshipped
I don't agree with
Lawrence.
That. I don't agree
with
with
the
that.
truth. Whether you agree or not, it doesn't matter because it's true.
Anyway, it's now even because the cat loves him more.
I disagree. The cat loves us different but equal. You know, like how kids act differently with a mother than they do with a father. I mean, that's kind of how our cat is. I'm the rough housing dad, and Lawrence is the nurturing mom. So we have different relationships with the cat, but he loves us both.
Well, and the cat, to be honest, because I am the like that figure that I'm the one who takes the cat to the vet and stuff like that. Although Leon sometimes will come with me. I initiate it. I make it happen. He knows it. He knows he's hiding from me when he doesn't want to go to the vet. So, in a sense, it's like Leon's the fun one, the dad he can play with, and I'm a little bit more of the disciplinarian and like we got to get this serious stuff done. And that's with Leon too. I'm the one who's pushing him to go to the doctor. When not now, I'm not talking about now, but in normal circumstances, if he's got a sniffle or something's bothering him, I'm like, okay, I'm making an appointment.
Right or left side of the bed?
Oh God, I have to think about that. I've never even really. Oh,
well, I mean, typically, which side? Wait a minute. If you're facing it, well, if you're lying in it and looking out, I'm on the left typically.
Yeah.
I'm now on the left. Sometimes I've been on the right. It depends.
Currently on the left.
You get bored and you switch around.
It's the only time you will ever find me on the right of anything. That's as political as I'm going to go tonight.
All right, and the last one, what are your pet names for each other?
We actually have the same pet name. We have the same pet name for each other.
We have the same pet name for each other. It's really weird, and neither of us actually remembers where it came from.
No, I remember where it came from.
You do?
Early in our relationship.
Exclusive. But you heard it here first. Go on.
Saying good morning to each other, waking up and saying good morning, but because I was a smoker at the time, I was always very concerned.
Time. This is over 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
Over 20 years.
I was always concerned about morning smoker breath, so I would always put the blanket in front of my mouth and I would say morning, which somehow evolved into Momo, which has now become it's like aloha. Momo in our relationship means hello, goodbye, I love you, I'm thinking of you. We say it probably 20 times a day.
I liken it to like a bird call, like a call, like woohoo, and it's Momo. So like if I wake up in the morning and he wakes up in the morning, it's like we say Momo. When I say goodbye, I might say goodbye, Momo.
Or just during the middle of the day, we'll send each other a direct message. Momo, how's your day going?
Yeah,
Momo,
like if one of us is working, we're working at our desks during the day and we're apart. Even if sometimes we might just be in the other room from each other. So that's our little call.
I'm really embarrassed.
I know you should be.
Well, we'll end this on a different kind of note. What next for each of you separately, together, and please tell me that Old Dogs is not the last series you're going to think about doing.
It's not the what?
That Old Dogs is not the last series. That you're not done. Please tell me that
it's
more.
funny you should mention that because if we ever do get past, raise the money and do more Old Dogs, Bruce Hart and I are we have I can go into detail because all the people involved. Jeffrey Hartgraves, who wrote Carved in Stone, before he passed, he and I created a concept for a TV sitcom, and Bruce Hart and I are going to try to pull together a pilot. It's called Hollywood Has-Beens, and that's all I'm going to tell you. But it's an old-fashioned sitcom. So hopefully we'll
Nice.
pull that off. And I want to explore more writing because I really enjoyed it. So I may do a series of Old Dogs novels if we're not able to, get the series going right away. Or so yeah, for me it's writing and maybe a series and just growing old gracefully. More like just gracefully, but yeah.
And Lawrence, thank you for coming on. What's next for you?
Absolutely, my pleasure to be on. And thank you so much because you guys really have supported Leon for years, and
years.
His proud husband appreciates that very much. Well, yeah, as I mentioned, and of course it's referred to many times in the book. Aside from everything I do to support Leon professionally, I'm actually, my official title is Director of Events and Concert Services at the Mondrian Los Angeles Hotel. For those of you who know the Mondrian, it's an illustrious and iconic Sunset Strip hotel.
With the Sky Bar. A lot of people know where the Sky Bar. That's where it is.
Oh yeah, Sky Bar. It's
yes.
well. In fact, the Sky Bar is really kind of an internationally known night spot and destination. And it's a great place to work. Unfortunately, the hotel closed on March 22nd, along with most of the other hotels on the Strip and around LA. We're all, as you know, currently on lockdown, and that in California that doesn't look to be ending dramatically anytime soon. So, for me, I'm helping Leon obviously with his projects. I'm doing some of my own with people in my industry because my industry is basically serving large groups of people, and so we're having to look at how to react and respond in a positive way to the changes that are undoubtedly going to happen as we start to resume life. Because as we start to resume life, things will not be exactly the same as they were. The situation with restaurants and places where people gather is all a matter of concern, both within my industry and for us at large as a society. So I'm furloughed. I wasn't laid off, which means that when the hotel does reopen, I will be part of that team that is kind of trying to determine what the new normal is going to be.
Awesome. Thank you both.
But I like what I do. I like what Leon does, and we're all in this together. Truly, this is a weird time for all of us. But we're strong people. Humankind are strong. The world.
And Pam, we were talking about our love of Carol Burnett. I remember in the last episode of the Carol Burnett show, she said, and this has been like one of my lifelong mottos: change is growth.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to embrace that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy for us, but you think about the kids and what they're going through right now, and you just can't even imagine ever going through something like this. So you got to think of the positives and come out better for it.
We all do. We all have to go through whatever everybody's going through. And again, as I said much earlier, there's some people who are truly suffering, who've lost relatives, who might be sick themselves. Those very people, some of them may be listening to this broadcast. And, my heart goes out to them. And so, we just, whatever we can do in our small way, we got to do.
Absolutely.
And that includes, having a conversation. If there's anyone listening to this show right now who's alone and feeling really kind of desperate, I'm open to the world on Facebook. Send me a friend request and a message, and we'll talk. No one should have to be going through this without any kind of connection to the outside world. I think of my time, the Kissing the Frogs era of the book. If this had happened during those days of my life, I would be a frickin' basket case right now. So reach out. If you're feeling that, scared and alone, reach out to me if you have no one else to reach out to, but do try to connect.
And Pam and I can attest to, if you message him, he will answer you.
You'll get sick of how much I respond.
No, absolutely not. You're such a pleasure.
No.
Thanks.
Yeah, this show, is it's about the soap operas in its concept. but we're also all about promoting positivity. We don't allow bashing on our show. We don't allow, and in fact, we strive very hard to put to rights some of the prevailing attitudes and stuff that are out there. And, I think ending tonight on a note like that, let's wrap it all up by saying, reach out to those out there that may be lonely. Reach out to those that may be being left behind right now. Be kind, not only to the medical workers, but be kind to all the people. The guy that has to drive the bus. Be kind to the people out there that are being exposed to it every day. Be kind to the people that you're sheltering in place with, even when, they're chewing too loudly, they're snoring 2 rooms away, they got toothpaste on the mirror in the bathroom. Be kind. Be kind. Guys, I thank you both so much. Leon, you know how much I love your projects. I absolutely love the book, and I love you as a person.
Thank you,
so
Anthony.
much.
I'm pretty crazy about you, too, and thank you for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on for this short time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving our listeners a little bit of a treat behind the man behind the scenes. We finally get to hear a little bit.
The man behind the curtain.
And Pam, thank you so much for creating a standalone episode so that we could support our friend and his book. Again, it is Sub-Lebrity. Let's not dive any further into that. Sub-Lebrity. You can find it on Amazon. It's a Kindle book. It's an ebook. And June 14th is that the projected date if you absolutely have to have a feel of a book in your hand?
Yes. If the printing presses are open by then, it'll be out on June 14th. It will just depend on whether it's safe for people to go back to work. One nice thing about Amazon are their books are printed in the U.S. of A. So.
And we will update you if that changes. We will
Absolutely.
update you with any news about table reads or pilots being picked up. And Leon, come on back when this is all over and you're working on something new.
Gee, I'd hate that. Twist my arm. Thank you. I'd love to.
3 strikes, you're out, dude. Bye.
Bye-bye.
We will be back next week for our regularly scheduled hashing about the soaps. Well, hashing about what's left, the 2 soaps that will still have regular episodes. And we look forward to any of your comments and feedbacks. We are Take 2, the number 2 radio. You can find our podcast on any of your open podcast streams. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. I am Anthony31C if you want to send me a private message on Twitter, and Anthony Corona on Facebook. Leon already gave you his information. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, and please, please be kind to the people around you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
You guys rock.
All right.
So good. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.